Welcome to our video on the CAGED system. Now, the CAGED system is for guitar, so you might be wondering why we're starting this video with a picture of a piano keyboard. The reason is we want to show the need for the CAGED system. Look at this E major scale on the piano keyboard. See how clear it is? It's the same on each octave, and it's very easy to see the pattern. Now, let's compare this with the notes for the E major scale on the guitar. Now, there's a lot of them, a lot more, because of course the guitar has doubled notes that the piano doesn't. So when you're presented with this, you're thinking, what the heck is all that? How am I supposed to know where all the notes for the E major scale are? Much easier to see on the piano. Well, that's where the CAGED system comes in. It's a way to find the notes for scales, chords, arpeggios on the guitar neck and make it as clear, or fairly close to as clear, as it is on the piano. One important concept behind the CAGED system is the idea of using movable patterns on the guitar. Take a look at this. Here is one pattern for the G major scale on the guitar. Now here is the same pattern adjusted for the G sharp major scale. See that again, G, and then to make it G sharp we simply move everything up. That's one of the beauties of the guitar. If I want to go to A, I just move it up one more, and there I have an A major scale. So this is an important concept, that once I know a pattern for a scale on the guitar, I can use it all over the place to generate many scales, and it's always the same pattern. The problem is, how do we find these patterns quickly? And even more than that is, what if I need to start the pattern in the middle here rather than always starting at the bottom? That's a problem that plagues many a beginning guitarist and many advanced guitarists for that point. So that's where the CAGED system really shines as a way of finding patterns very quickly all the way across the guitar neck. Let's take a look at these. Now, before explaining exactly what the CAGED system does, I want to talk about where the name the CAGED system came from. It's not some ancient torture technique to learn scales, although some might disagree with that. It comes from chord names. Let me show you what I mean here. It comes from the C chord, then the A, the G, the E chord, and then the D. Those 5 basic chord shapes are going to be what we use to locate scales, arpeggios, and chords on the guitar neck. Let me show you a little more on the background of the name and how the system works. Take this C major chord here. Now this is a C major chord in the first position, and what I would call the C shape. C, E, G, C. We've got all the notes there, and most people know how to play the C major chord. Now let's take a look at, if I wanted to find a C chord now up the neck a little bit. Well, the next one is going to be this chord. These right here, and we'll just eliminate these here. And you can see that here we have a bar chord that's also a C chord. Now, where does this come from? Well, let's go back and look at our A shape. If we take an A shape, this is the A chord in the first position, and we move it up. So what do I mean by that? Well, I'd move it up one here, and this would become a B flat, and then I would keep going, move the chord again, and this would become a B. This goes back to our movable patterns demonstration. And then finally, when I move that up one more, and you can see, there it is, you can see this transfers one more up to this, so we get a C major chord. But you can see that its origin is the A chord, that its shape, that it looks like our old A shape, just moved up. Now notice one thing. With regards to the names of the shapes, we started out with the C shape because it's the C chord in first position. Now we've moved to the A shape, not the A chord, but the A shape, and it's right next to it. If I were to keep going with this, clear this, you can see that now I'm using these little green dots to show the basic caged shape. The next one is going to be the G shape, and this comes from this G chord, G major in the first position. Using the idea of movable patterns, I scoot it up, go from G, G sharp, A sharp, B, to finally C, where we are now. And then there's another one here, that's the E shape. So we have this E, and then I move it up using movable patterns until it gets all the way up to here, and we have the C major shape, but C major in the E shape. Now we can keep going and we get the D finally. So if you put these all next to each other, we have the C shape, then we follow that with our A shape, then the G, and you can see they're all right next to each other, then our E shape, and then our D shape. And it spells out C, A, G, E, D. So that's very helpful information right there on how you can take within one key, in our example the key of C, and spread it across the entire fretboard.